Excalibur. The name alone conjures images of a gleaming blade, either thrust deep into a stone or raised high by a mysterious hand emerging from the waters. This is no ordinary weapon. It is the sword that crowned Arthur as the rightful king of Britain, a symbol of power, destiny, and kingship that has captivated the imaginations of people for centuries. From literature to film, Excalibur stands as one of the most iconic objects in Western mythology. But behind the myths and legends lies a more complex story. In this video, we will explore the origins of Excalibur, tracing its evolution from ancient Celtic tales to medieval romances, and examine how this mythical blade has come to symbolize more than just a sword. It is an emblem of divine right, magic, and the eternal struggle for power. To understand the origins of Excalibur, we must first turn to one of the most influential sources in Arthurian legend, Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britanniae, 1136. In Geoffrey's account, Arthur wields a sword named Caliburnus, but this is not yet the Excalibur we know today. The name Caliburnus itself is thought to have Celtic roots, potentially linked to legendary swords in Irish and Welsh myth. Geoffrey's Caliburnus is the foundation upon which later writers would build the myth of Excalibur, transforming a sword from the battlefield into a symbol of kingship. As the centuries passed, Excalibur took on new life in the hands of later medieval writers. The sword became more than just a weapon in works like the Lancelot Grail cycle and Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur. By the time of Malory's work in the 15th century, Excalibur had fully emerged as a magical object, capable of uniting Britain under a single, divinely anointed ruler. This shift, from Caliburnus to Excalibur, marks the beginning of the sword's legendary status as a weapon of profound significance. One of the most fascinating aspects of Excalibur is that it has two origins, depending on which version of the legend you follow. The first, and perhaps the most famous, is the sword in the stone. According to this tale, Arthur pulls Excalibur from a stone, proving himself the rightful king. The symbolism here is clear. Only the true ruler, chosen by fate, can wield such a powerful weapon. This image of the sword in the stone taps into medieval ideals of divine kingship, leadership bestowed by heavenly forces, not mere birthright. The second origin story comes with the introduction of the Lady of the Lake, a mysterious and magical figure who bestows Excalibur upon Arthur. In this version, the sword is not drawn from a stone, but given as a gift, emphasizing Arthur's connection to the magical and supernatural world. The Lady of the Lake, often seen as a representation of Celtic water deities, underscores the mystical qualities of Excalibur. It is no longer just a sign of divine rule. It is a weapon forged in magic, a tool both of power and mystery. Behind the legends of Excalibur may lie real historical inspirations. Scholars have long pointed to parallels between Excalibur and swords from Celtic mythology, such as the Irish Claiom Solais, or Sword of Light. These legendary weapons, much like Excalibur, were often imbued with supernatural powers, suggesting that the myth of Excalibur may have its roots in older Celtic traditions. Moreover, the idea of a legendary sword is not unique to the British Isles. Some scholars have proposed that Excalibur's fame could have been influenced by the real weapons of Roman or Viking warriors. The intricate craftsmanship and durability of such swords may have inspired tales of invincible blades passed down through the generations, eventually becoming the foundation for a legend like Excalibur. Excalibur is far more than just a weapon. It is a symbol of kingship, legitimacy, and the moral authority of its wielder. In Arthurian legend, the sword represents the very essence of rightful rule, not just through strength, but through the divine will that selects a king. Medieval audiences would have recognized this connection between the sword and kingship, as it mirrored the idea that rulers were chosen by God and armed with the tools to maintain their rule. But Excalibur also holds a more complex symbolism. It is both a tool of war and a symbol of peace. Arthur's use of Excalibur is not merely to win battles, but to bring about unity and justice across the realm. In many ways, Excalibur represents the dual nature of Arthur himself, a king who must balance the brutality of war with the wisdom to rule peacefully. And then there are the magical qualities of the sword. Legends say it is unbreakable, capable of blinding enemies, and sometimes linked to eternal life. These qualities elevate Excalibur beyond mere steel, imbuing it with mystical power that resonates deeply within the legend of Arthur. As Arthur's life comes to a close in the fateful Battle of Camlan, so too does Excalibur's time in his hands. According to legend, Arthur orders that the sword be returned to the Lady of the Lake, who had originally given it to him. This moment, the sword's return to the water, marks the end of Arthur's reign, but also suggests the possibility of renewal and resurrection. Just as Excalibur emerged from the lake, so too could it rise again, hinting at the prophecy that Arthur himself would return in Britain's hour of greatest need. This prophecy, known as the myth of the once and future king, ties Excalibur not only to Arthur's life, but also to the idea of national identity. The sword, like the king, may sleep beneath the waves, but its power remains ready to awaken when the time comes. Though our focus is primarily on the historical and mythological origins of Excalibur, it is impossible to ignore the sword's continued impact in modern culture. From classic literature to blockbuster films, Excalibur has remained a central figure in retellings of the Arthurian legend. However, while modern adaptations often emphasize the sword's role in Arthur's story, they sometimes overlook its deeper symbolism, focusing instead on its magical properties. Yet Excalibur's legacy persists because it transcends the boundaries of time and culture. Whether seen as a relic of the past or a symbol of future hope, Excalibur continues to inspire, offering a connection to a mythical age of chivalry, honor, and destiny. Excalibur, as we have explored, is more than a sword. It is a symbol of kingship, a link to the divine, and a connection to the mysterious forces of magic. Its origins, steeped in both history and legend, offer us a glimpse into the world of Arthurian myth and the medieval imagination. But even as we trace its history, Excalibur remains elusive, always somewhere between the realms of fact and fantasy.